Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rin. Thank you so much for clicking on this video. Today I will be painting this picture of a mouse in a hot air balloon. So to start, I obviously just wet down my paper with clean water and then am using my water brush because I really wanted to make sure this background was blended really smoothly and seamlessly. And I did use my Vintage Pastels palette for this painting. That was pretty much all I used, just a couple colors out of my Winsor & Newton palette as well, but just to blend, to make some variation in depth. But anyway, I know I've talked about this before on my channel about whenever I use my Vintage Pastels palette for a sky, it usually ends up looking kind of stormy, and I really did not want that vibe for this painting, so I ended up using a lot of pinks and purples, and then obviously yellow. I think I put some orange in there as well, and then the yellow and the pink blending together of course made some orange, and I just went in with a tiny bit of blue in just a couple spots, strategically placed it in a couple spots so that way it didn't end up looking quite so stormy. To me it looks more almost like a sunset, like a cotton candy kind of sunset, so I'm really happy with how that turned out. If there's one thing I wish I had done differently, I have two things I wish I had done differently in this painting, and one is that I wish that I would have made the background colors more vibrant. But that tends to be like something I always wish, so I just have to keep it in mind when I'm starting my paintings to make sure I'm really making those colors as vibrant and as pigmented as I want, because that's obviously a little hard to go back in and touch up sometimes and get that smooth of a blend between all the colors. But one of my other goals for this painting was to try and keep it kind of like a painterly vibe, in the sense that I didn't want all of the colors blended super smoothly. I wanted to leave them like almost where you could see the brush strokes in some way, like the best you can do that with watercolor. I don't know that I necessarily achieved that, but I was trying to like use a lot of different colors as well. Since there's not a lot going on in this picture, I wanted to use a lot of different colors as well to add more visual interest. I feel like this painting was a good exercise in really working to make sure the visual interest is in the colors, because that's really the biggest part of this painting, since there isn't a lot of things going on in it, if that makes sense. Like the colors really make or break this painting, I feel like. Also, this painting was a lot of like trial and error, as any kind of like full page illustration or environment painting I do is. I never know what I'm doing. I'm just guessing, so I'm always trying things, and then if I don't like it, I try to like go back over it and fix it, which I did a lot on the actual balloon portion of this painting. I was trying to find the balance between that like painterly vibe, but it also not looking really like streaky, if that makes sense. I'm not sure what the word I want there is, but I spent a lot of time in this painting doing lots of little things that probably nobody noticed except me, and I spent quite a bit of time off camera trying to work and rework spots in this painting to get them to where I liked them. But anyway, the other thing on this painting I did that I wish I wouldn't have done, that my hand's kind of covering a little bit now, but you saw me paint earlier in the video, is that the actual balloon itself looks kind of like it's deflating, which is obviously not great. This mouse is not meant to be plummeting to his doom. He is meant to be having a very nice hot air balloon ride at sunset. So I wish I would have made those lines like more taut, like the balloon is fully filled and it's sailing through the air very nicely and smoothly and not at all plummeting. So I wish I would have done that a little different. In my head when I was painting those lines, I was just thinking, oh, let's make them more visually interesting by not having them just be a straight curved line, which kind of worked, but not in the way I wanted it to. So that's the other thing I wish I had done differently in this painting. But here I'm just painting all the little balloons around the hot air balloon. I love painting balloons. They make me think of painting bubbles, and I love to paint bubbles. That's a big thing I will add to a lot of my paintings. So this was really fun for me to just feel not stressed about it and just add whatever colors I wanted to pretty much to these little balloons. The worst part about painting these was trying to make them semi-round or like an oval balloon shape, but I did pretty much just use my Vintage Pastels palette for this. I just added some Winsor & Newton colors to a couple of these to make that like darker, like almost cherry maroon color or mauve color. That it was, I mixed with a maroon color out of the Winsor & Newton palette. But for the most part, I just used my Vintage Pastels palette for this. And then here I'm adding glitter. You can't really see it too well in the shots where I'm adding it, but here you can see it, and then I show it a little bit more in depth later in the video. And then using my Posca pen to add highlights where I felt like I needed some more white, or to add just details. Sometimes when I'm using my Posca pen, it doesn't show up very pigmented, and so I'll have to do multiple layers of it, which I did do here. And then just adding some more color around the white to make it pop out a little bit more around the, I don't know what they're called, like the strings holding the balloon and the basket together. I'm sure there's a technical name for it. I unfortunately don't know what it is. And I thought about adding clouds with my Posca pen in the background here too, where I added the little birds, but I wasn't sure that I could do it and it wouldn't look weird. So that's why I just added birds. And then here I'm going to go ahead and stick it in my sketchbook. I have an idea for what to do on the right side of the page, but that will be in a future video where we'll finish out this spread. I have a couple spreads I have ideas for to finish them out, so I'll definitely be doing a video like that again where I finish out more spreads. And then I did end up going back in and using my colored pencils, just a purple and a blue, just to add some definition in some spots. Like I said, I tend to always feel like I'm doing all these little things that probably aren't noticeable to anybody but me, but that's just that, like, spending time on details that nobody will notice, but you notice as the artist, and it feels like the painting is finished then. So here's how it turned out. If you are still watching at the end, as always, thank you so much. That really helps my channel. Here you can see the glitter a little bit better. I appreciate you watching. I will see you in the next one. Remember to be kind and stay cozy. Bye!